Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this episode of the Economic Times Cutting Try Stories, an initiative by ET Edge. On this platform, we identify leaders and talk about their personal and professional journeys. And we also discuss their traits, their qualities, and thought processes that make these leaders stand out in the industry across different sectors and verticals. I'm Dimple Bajwa, your host for this session. Today, I have been joined by one of the most influential CTOs of India. He is the recipient of the Alexander Graham Bell Prize in Canada and has also received IETE Memorial Awards for distinguished contributions in electronics and communications. Without further ado, let me now welcome Mr. Aloknath, Corporate Vice President and CTO, Samsung India R&D. Thank you for joining us, sir. It is a pleasure to have you on our platform.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm equally excited.
So before we start the conversation, I would like to ask you to throw light on your leadership qualities that differentiate you from the other leaders. You know, the fact that you're a leader and you've been leading teams for so many years makes me curious to know more about the qualities, the leadership qualities that you have.
Yeah, it's for others to comment on it, but the way I think I lead and the way I've been grown up, the way I got the opportunities, I love the contrasting views. And I want to assimilate that into the journey, not intentionally, but they come. The part of the world is about, all kinds of dilemmas, ambiguities. The world is VUCA world, as they call, volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous. So how do you deal in that is my fundamental motto. So I have 10 such things for myself that I have defined and I try to practice, but I'll just take 2 of them for the sake of time. One is I call be hard on goal, be soft on soul. So the thing is, we run projects, we are ambitious, we have lots of goals, and we must not get deterred by different factors, even there would be different situations, but we must achieve that. On the other hand, the people around could be going through traumatic situations like now. Right. And so we need to empathize with them. We need to understand them. There would be practical difficulties, but you find solutions. So that's why I call be hard on goal, but be soft on soul, the people. Let me just take a second one. Moil the day to make yourself redundant, toil the eve to make yourself relevant, right? So at our age, as we are growing, gaining experience, it is very, very important that we mentor people, we drive them, we understand what they're going right, wrong, what are the options that we could give. So when I'm in the office and daytime or whatever work we do, the daytime is for me to give, and give, and listen to them, but grow with that flow. So to make yourself redundant as if you won't be there tomorrow and the next set of leaders should take over. Whereas in the evening, I would love to consider to learn and grow and make myself relevant. I don't want to retire so early. And therefore, what you learn something new that the others do not know, and your value remains very high. This is my whole second motto. So I could go on, but maybe another time.
No, but these are very interesting qualities that you shared. And I think focusing on people is something, everybody expects, and that's what you've been doing. So that's very interesting to know. So now let me start by asking you about, your early days in Samsung India R&D. How has your journey from then to now been? Also, it would be great if you could take us through your career journey and tell us more on the lines if this is what you've always wanted to do.
Sure. First of all, I'm very privileged to study in 5 different great institutes, 2 of the Ramakrishna Mission in 10th standard, 12th standard, and then IIT Kharagpur, IIC Bangalore, and McGill University in Canada. And I have been very privileged in my industry experience of 30 years, from Bharat Electronics to Nortel Networks to Hughes to ST Ericsson, where I was country director for India, and Samsung India for last 10 years as CTO and corporate VP with certain responsibilities globally. So I think in this journey, I have seen, the passion that I have had on the technology. Obviously, in the beginning years, formative years, you grow more from science and arts and all kinds of faculties, but you start sharpening. Like my father wanted to be a doctor, but couldn't because of financial and other constraints, and he wanted me to be. And after 10th, I really even joined into that. But in 11th standard, I realized my passion lies in engineering and technology. And so I moved from there. And these 5 places over 30 years, whether it is communications, that's my specialty in electronics communications, and wireless that we grew. It has been terrestrial networks, but now it is becoming non-terrestrial networks. I got opportunity from chip design to operator, working with them. So the entire spectrum of it, and delivering many solutions that have accolades, but more than that, this is everyday's life, right? In this time of COVID has affected. Without telecommunications, it could have been difficult for many people to work from home or otherwise. So we can see the impact that we are doing and the effect of high speed and latency and many other things that we are doing. So radar to 1st generation to 5th generation of technology, and then satellite that I picked up in Hughes, chip design, STM Ericsson, and now 5G, AI, IoT, and Samsung journey. You asked me the questions, how did you take it? Obviously, we started with 4th generation. Now we are in the 5th generation. AI got added. IoT is something that I am personally driving through data analytics. And as we do on the technology side, but as CTO, I'm also responsible for growing the in-house innovations, the number of patents. We are one of the highest patent filer grantor in India, as Samsung does globally in US, but we are keeping that. And last 5-6 years, I have tried to fuse this in-house innovation with the open innovations. So startups and universities and business corporates, how can you connect with them and build solutions?
Right, right. Interesting. You mentioned about the technology that you've been working on, and how it has evolved during the pandemic. So we've seen digital disruptions happening ever since the pandemic started. While we saw it as a challenge, initially it made way for new opportunities. What has your experience been with all these digital transformations and digital evolution?
No, I think digital disruptions have been going on for some time, even pre-COVID, I must say. Pre-pandemic, the digitalizations, it got accelerated by this process because now we have realized that we need to buckle up on that front, and such situations ever comes up, we can operate differently. So I think it has definitely helped to think beyond what we are doing, bring up the quality of audio, video conferencing, collaborations remotely, and many things of that nature. Now, when people ask me, what's the impact of digital transformations? Many people don't get it, and it's hard, to explain. You need many sentences. Right. But I just tell them simply, just think it of, even in India context, COVID coming in 2010. Instead of 2020, if it was in 2010, how would you have survived? How would you have reacted? The kind of the government initiative, private initiatives on digital payment, UPI, if we are not equipped with the digital payment transactions, even online, how would you get those products, even if products could be delivered? So I think this is one way, just to put that contrast. Think of COVID in 2010 versus 2020. I think we have done significantly well because of certain equipments that we have had in our hands, and we are adding more and more tools to do it. And just since we are into that inertia, since we are into that momentum, I think it'll take vertical by vertical. Currently we did some healthcare, but that's helter-skelter. We had to do very quickly. But now it'll be very systematic. FinTech, I think we are recognized as one of the world's finest um, tech providers. I think FinTech, we have a recognition as a country. But EdTech has been going on last year. And I believe it is time for health tech, healthcare, whether it is measurement, remote monitoring, cost-effective portable solutions, the data management, emergency. We heard, the drone is starting to supply the blood and other things, and these experiments are starting in trial form.
Mhm.
Enormous opportunity. Tech can help really in a big way if we can utilize in towards our benefit.
Right, right. I totally agree with that, sir. Uh, so this is a different side of you that, further on I would like to know. So if we rewind you a little, if we go back to the early years of your childhood and school and later in college, uh, was there anybody who influenced you in those formative years? You mentioned that your father wanted you to be a doctor, and somehow you knew that you chose a different field for yourself. So did you have anybody who influenced you in your formative years, and what other ambitions did you have as a teenager?
Right. No, it'll be superfluous to say that, parents had a big role. Every child, I'm sure, they're indebted to their parents. Uh, what I picked up from my father, he was a very hard man, disciplined, and set high goals, ambitious, and raised the bar, always raised the bar. He never wanted us to get settled down somewhere. What we preach today, that you shouldn't feel comfortable, no status quo, get going. He didn't preach that way, but I think he never allowed us to do it, right? If you sleep beyond a time, he will come and play the radio, move the curtain so that daylight comes. He'll not even ask you to wake up, but he makes sure that's it, right? So that's him. On the other hand, mother is, all kinds of adaptability, compromise, empathy, sympathy, whatever I talked about. I think that's a skill that we learned. So if I believed, I could fuse, we are all trying to do that. And this two philosophy works well if you can combine, because there are times for being hard, decision making. There are times for being soft. And if you can apply this duality principle in you, that will be great. So we try to do that. The other person that I must mention, since you asked this question, is my school headmaster. And I mentioned that I studied in Ramakrishna Mission.
You did, yes.
And that upbringing, again, the discipline, waking up in the morning, 5:30, with a bell, and then go for prayer, then go for exercise, have breakfast, clean your places. It's like a, hour by hour, you used to do that, and studies focus on that hour, right? Whatever you are doing, just
Right.
focus. And the dignity of lever, we used to mop our places. There was no other people that were allowed to do that. It has to
Wow.
be student community who has to clean their shoes, their beds, their everything. And we used to open these things up while we go for studies, so that there is a contest each day across these different hostels. And the evening, the marks will be announced that who kept it very tip top. So you can understand that that's a kind of it. But particularly our headmaster, one quality on top of this culture of the institute, that he used to speak Bengali, English, and Sanskrit very
Mhm.
fluently. He was a monk, and he was teaching his other monk fellows in Sanskrit, and I was also privileged to learn from him. His English and Bengali, whenever he used to speak, he will never mix up things. It's Bengali is pure Bengali, English is pure English, and Sanskrit is pure Sanskrit, right? So that refinement, it's not about what he did, but that purity, that vocabulary, that expressions. I think that's a powerful thing that I kind of tried to learn.
Wow.
So
Wow.
this is a very interesting experience, and I really cherish even now the moment.
Right. Right. It is very interesting indeed. So we've talked about your work and your college days, and also beautifully you took us through your school journey, telling us about your headmaster, and of course the other things that you indulged in, like cleaning your rooms, tidying your beds and everything. I know that lifts the team spirit up. Especially when you get graded on such things, it lifts up the team spirit and you somehow want to do it. So yes, beautifully you mentioned everything. Now I'd like to understand how you maintain a work-life balance. You've told us, actually we've gotten an idea of the amount of work that you do. So I'm sure there's a lot of work in your daily scenario, but I just want to know here, how do you maintain a work-life balance, and how can one remain, detached from work to have a balanced life and mental peace?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. And I always wonder how this word came, work-life balance, and who felt the necessity, because the way we have grown it up, I somehow cannot relate to that. The closest I can go is the work-life integrations. Because see, to me, life is much bigger. Life is everything, right? And I'm not trying to be too philosophical like Sadhguruji, but to be very simply putting it, life is everything, what you do. I mean, all my 24 hours with all the energy, and work can be a subset of it, but it cannot be equal. And at the same time, work has to be a subset of it. It can't be staying separate. So it can't be peer and it can't stay outside, right? So, uh, so we spend time, and I follow the principle of work-life integration, meaning that the life that we are leading, how the work that we spend, and if we mean by work, the professional work, and sometimes people have their passions, their pastimes, and we also have. And sometimes people are able to bring and get imbibed into this philosophy. Some want to play it separate. This is my work, office work, let me put it that way. And these are my personal, passionate work that I wanted to do, but that's also a work in some way whereby you are putting significant amount of energy.
Right.
So that's to me, I think, work getting integrated into life. And if it can take a bigger space, and if you have one goal, and as we approach life day by day, we try to fuse things to make a bigger goal. And simply I can say that whenever I work hard, like 15 hours in office even, and solve some problem, customer experience, build a product, and went out, and 11 p.m. and my wife says, it looks like you just went to office, right? And she always says that from my face, if I'm smiling at 11 p.m., she knows that I've done significant amount of work. But even at 6
Right.
p.m., if I come and not shining, then possibly didn't go that well. And so to me, that's work life. Right?
Right, right. That's very interesting. So, in the past 1 year, we've all been working from home, or I think some of the offices have resumed now. But yes, work from home culture has really got on. It's become the new trend now. So, how have you indulged in, family activities over these months, and how have you been spending your time with your family?
So first thing, I think it was a little shocking because I just before the lockdown on last year, 2020, March, I returned from Korea. I was having an office in corporate headquarter in Suwon. And every month I was spending 7 days every month. For 21 months, I traveled every month that, and I had a team there, and I've been working with them even now. But it was like a much more intense because of that travel.
Right.
And then other times I was spending in India travels and this. So first thing was shocking that all the travels went off at 2 weeks in a month. So you get not only extra time from local commute, but suddenly you see this. So what do you do with them? So I tried to do a couple of things. One, I've been thinking to maintain a good health and BMI, and not too bad. I won't say I was doing too bad, but by my wife's standard, and she has been practicing aerobics and yoga. So by her standard, it was not still okay. And so my BMI was like 25 plus, and I tried to do it 21 plus, between 21, 22. And I worked 10 months to lose all these weights. and
Wow.
daily exercise. And she has been like instructor come, colleague in that journey.
Right, right,
So
right.
this is one thing, the exercise, diet, and immunity informations, whether you want it or not, through all WhatsApp, you get that. So I think this has been something very interesting that I looked into it. Never we talk about our body, how it operates, and all these biology things that we studied in 10th, not been
Right.
doctor. I'm an engineering doctor, but not medical doctor. But nonetheless, this was a beautiful time to understand how things work and what we should do better at our age so that we can live life a bit longer, right? And keep doing things that we are enjoying to do. So that's, I think, first thing. Second thing, I think in school days, we used to have a hobby class of gardening and Ramakrishna Mission, beautiful fields. So with the little bit that we have around the house, I thought then the other people could not come, the gardener. So picked up few things, and whether it is bougainvillea or sunflower, and now we're trying some avocado trees,
Mhm.
understanding what works, what takes 5 years to grow, what grows, what can do it in small, and some vegetables that we could have it at home. So I won't say great things that we did, but few things that I could do in this time. And the
Right.
last part, I will say that the focus on a lot of these hobbies and participations. On one hand, we could not travel, but on the other hand, during this time, people have allowed us to join, the remote distance, right? It doesn't matter whether you're in India and US. So a lot of international forums and participations without traveling, without it costing you from your home. So I have started joining many of them in our corporate decision makings, even though you're not traveling, but you could join. They respect and
Right.
listen to that. So this cyber world, I think learning a bit more on that, and like the way we are talking to you today,
Right.
this has been fascinating, and many things we have been able to unfold during this period.
I totally agree with that. I think connectivity has increased to another level on professional front as well as I think on personal front. I think we've connected to people we hadn't met in years, and we are talking to them. We are doing face-to-face chat with them. So I think that's a very interesting thing that pandemic has brought forward, and all thanks to the technology that has helped us do so.
Sure.
Uh, sir, that was a very engaging conversation with you, and it was a very interesting chat with you, sir. But like all good things, this conversation too has come to an end. In the interest of times, it was great interacting with you, Mr. Day. Thank you for answering all my questions with such spontaneity. There is so much to take away from you, and so much to learn from your experiences. It was truly an amazing interaction with you, sir. Thank you once again. This is Dimple Bajwa signing off. Stay safe and healthy. Have a good day.
Thank you.